Good afternoon. Phil Lindemann with your news from Avalanche Physical Therapy on Krystal 93. The season is done, and the data confirms this winter was the busiest ski season in Colorado history. Colorado Ski Country USA reports 14 million skiers at their partner resorts, not including Vail properties. Vail Resorts confirms record revenue February through April, but with a different spin on skier visits. CEO Kirsten Lynch tells investors, despite growth in overall visits, very few resorts broke single-day records. 6 resorts had at least 2 days that were busier than ever before. She did not say what resorts. Epic passes remain a hot commodity. Pass sales through end of May are 9% ahead of last year's record pace. Pass revenue is up 11%. A national gun reform group, March for Our Lives, is protesting tomorrow in Edwards. That protest begins at 11 a.m. All are welcome. March for Our Lives was formed in 2018 by survivors of the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida. They hope to unseat politicians they say are, quote, bought and paid for by gun lobbies. We have been talking with local towns and law enforcement about gun safety and culture here in Summit. Police chiefs tell us in their experience, local gun owners are very responsible. Breckenridge Police Chief Jim Baird.
We haven't received calls that I'm aware of stating anything like, my kid was at so-and-so's house playing and came across it, something like that. We haven't seen that.
But Breck PD does get calls for other firearms left unattended.
I would say one of the most common ways that we come across guns here in Breckenridge is actually when tourists will leave them behind where they were staying by mistake.
By law, firearms in Colorado must be stored securely. Baird could not comment on if these abandoned firearms were locked. Reselling catalytic converters is now outlawed in Colorado. Summit Sheriff Jamie Fitzsimons.
These thieves have really got it down to a science, and it's because they're so valuable in the aftermarket, and especially the minerals and chemicals that are inside.
This new law was inspired by Colorado's dubious honor as the worst in the nation for catalytic converter theft.
We've had them done in parking lots of businesses where someone runs into the market to go shopping, they come out and their catalytic converter's gone.
Recent police numbers show car theft is improving in Summit and along the I-70 corridor. Trailheads countywide are consistently getting busier, and tickets for illegal parking are $100 a pop. Sheriff Fitzsimons on the Krystal Morning Show.
There is no parking on county roads. We got to wrap our minds around that.
First, don't be a lemming.
It takes one bad person parking on a county road with their car sideways, and before you know it, literally, we have cars that have been abandoned in the middle of the street with someone that went hiking and figured, I'll pay the fine. Second,
don't be an easy target.
And if you are parking at these trailheads, let's not leave things visible on your seat, like cameras and purses and, money bags from banks.
Lily Pad in Wilderness, Ptarmigan and Silverthorne, and Baldy and Breck are pinch points. Lily Pad and Baldy have bus service. Colorado is teeming with ghost towns, including Masontown, sitting just above Frisco on the slopes of Mount Royal.
The old mill site, the grade is still there for it, and then you'll see some brick piles off to the left if you're heading uphill on the trail that aren't full foundations, but at its prime, it had just about a dozen buildings up there.
That was Blair Miller, author of a new book, Masontown, Frisco's Victoria Mine and Ghost Town.
They kind of were a little bit different than the average Frisco mine. Frisco was primarily silver is where they found most of their luck in the neighboring areas, but Masontown was looking for gold.
Miller has spent the past 2 years digging deep into Masontown history. His book includes a hiking guide and covers 4 decades of active mining back to 1880, plus the avalanches that buried the town.
The first one was in the 1890s, and they decided to rebuild the town despite it being in an avalanche path, and that continuously reoccurred. Several other ones at the time, but the one to really put the nail in the coffin was 1926. It took down every building except for one remaining cabin.
Miller's book debuts tomorrow at 4 p.m. with a Q&A, music, and food at the Historic Park on Main Street. It is the first book printed by the Historic Park's new imprint. Local fire danger remains moderate today with no fire restrictions. Check back, that could be changing through the weekend. In sports, the Rockies open a series with the Padres today at 7:40. And in local sports, brought to you by Red Mountain Autos at their new location on Airport Road. Day 4 of GoPro Mountain Games is wrapping up in Vail. Playing Ford Amphitheater tonight are Government Mule, Warren Haynes, and Grace Potter. Tomorrow, you've got bike races, downriver kayak, raft, and paddleboard, fly fishing, and the Mountain Mud Run. Phil Lindemann with your news from Avalanche Physical Therapy on Krystal 93.